I mean, what a hell of a last couple of days. Where do you start? I don't know, like the roller coaster I was on. Jesus. And as I'm recording, it's Monday night, January 29th, 11 p.m. What a last couple of days. You get the Randle injury Saturday afternoon. You're waiting on it. You get nothing after the game. You know he's going for the MRI. He gets the MRI. You figured you'd get it the next morning. You wait an entire day. You got nothing. You watch football, try to distract yourself. The things on your mind, it's not really helping. This morning I wake up. I finally get the news that he's going to be okay. We think it's going to be good, and we'll talk about that. And it seems like we dodged a bullet there. Knicks game comes tonight. They're about to start. I'm in a good mood. Randle's going to be back. OG Anunoby, late scratch. I see right elbow inflammation. Now, as a baseball fan, as a diehard baseball fan, when I see right elbow inflammation, I totally forget where and when. I totally forget where I am. I forget what sport I'm talking. I just know bad. I immediately think, fuck, this is going to be a season ender. OG's gone, because I'm a baseball fan, and just I see elbow and I just flip. Turns out that might be pretty minor, and he's day-to-day, and we think it's going to be okay. And then you get to the game, the Knicks start off slow. You're like, oh, this is going to be brutal without Randle, isn't it? Looking ugly against Charlotte. But they pulled together in the second half, and the Knicks fans at MSG South tonight, as you'd expect, nothing less, go crazy, and they filled the building with all of our kind. And the Knicks pull away with the win. And we're going to talk about this win. The Knicks are now 13-2, folks. They've won 13 out of 15 in the year 2024. They're 30-17 overall, which is a win percentage a little below 650 ball. And they got a 100 win percentage, of course, in their last 7 games on this 7-game win streak. Things are good. Things are good, and they might be okay. Go forward, proceed with caution. But what a roller coaster of a last, 50-something hours it's been. Let's talk Knicks. Let's go. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for 3. That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball.
Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
Trying to close the show. She was doing a great job of feeding. That is over.
Coming up, so KP, don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
Whew. Yes, folks. We dodged a bullet, man. And I think it's probably best to start there. Here in episode 619 of BD4. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We do Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. And I'm your host, RJ Carbone. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the podcast, for maybe watching the video edit of the podcast. This is the first of a back-to-back. We usually don't do video podcasts on the first of a back-to-back. We try to get the episode out quick and do audio only. We want the, I don't like setting everything up for an episode that's going to have short shelf life with the next game in less than 24 hours. But I'm in a good mood. My energy has been totally, I don't want to say 180, but let's say like 150. There's still some concern, of course, since the last time we talked. after the Heat game, which I couldn't enjoy at the time, and I can enjoy it a little bit more now. But the Knicks get a win in North Carolina, defeating the Charlotte Hornets, and they also get some good news earlier today. And I feel like that's what we should start off with before we talk about this victory. So if you've been living under a rock, maybe you've been off social media today and this is the first time you're tuning in. I don't know why you're tuning into fucking this. But if you are, thank you. Julius Randle will, again, it seems like he's going to be okay. It's not definitive that he's going to be out for just a month, but that seems to be where the signs are, where this is headed. You know, because you get the reports this morning from Adrian Wojnarowski and Ian Begley. Finally, you get reports after an entire day of just stress and misery. And they say that Julius Randle is going to be out for weeks and not months. But it's definitely going to be at least a few weeks, which is a positive. You know, again, last episode we talked about it. I said best case scenario is a month, and that seems to be where we're headed here. So without Randle for a month, I think the Knicks can fare. I think they can figure this shit out. The good thing is the Knicks have been on such a hot streak that they've built up enough good ground, right? They have won now 7 in a row and 13 of 15, which has them in 4th place, just a half game above Cleveland for the 5th seed. And also, currently as I speak, the game's probably, well, it is over as you're listening, but 1 game back from Philly, a half game back from Philly as I speak, from the 3 seed. So, and they're currently losing by 17 late in the 3rd to Portland. So by the time this episode is out, we could be talking about a 3rd place Knicks team. They've built up enough ground, right? And it's optimistic that Isaiah Hartenstein seems to be okay and he's back. It's also good that this Randle injury, you don't want injury to happen, but it comes at a time where the tail end of this injury is at All-Star break. So that helps shave off a couple of games that he might have missed. And during this time without Julius, the Knicks' schedule is very, very home heavy. That helps. So let's play the game. And let's just be cautious and be conservative with this estimate. Let's say that Randle does miss a little bit more than just until All-Star break. Let's say he misses every game until March. Let's say he makes his return in March, which is a few games past the All-Star break. And the Knicks' first game in March is March 3rd against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So he will have missed 14 games at that rate. And those games are an away game versus Charlotte, which we just took tonight. And then home versus Utah, Indiana, the Lakers, Memphis, Dallas, and Indiana again. Away versus Houston, Orlando, and Philly. And then home versus Boston, Detroit, New Orleans, Golden State. 10 of those 14 games I just mentioned are at MSG. 5 of those 14 games are against teams out of contention at the moment, so 11 to 15 seeds. 9 of those 14 games are against teams out of a playoff spot at the moment, 7 to 15 seeds. So you figure a stretch like that with Julius Randle, the Knicks probably go 9-5, 10-4 probably. Without Randle now for at least, let's just say this month, this 14-game stretch, do we think the Knicks can do 7-7? I think that would be realistic, and I think that would be something I'd be fine with. Stay in the top 6 until he comes back, and then you take off. That's the plan, obviously. I do think the hopes of grabbing a home court seed, a top 3 seed, it could be gone. It'll be a lot more difficult, but you get Randle back, even if it means he comes back and you've fallen to the 6th seed. I think finishing 4th and 5th is still very doable. It's going to be hard to get a top 3. Because in this conference, how top-heavy the East is, to be able to grab a top 3 seed, you kind of have to sustain the rate that the Knicks have been playing at in 2024 all year. And I don't know that that's going to carry over the next month without Julius. They're going to lose some games, folks. The good thing is they're just going to lose some games and not a lot of games. Knock on fucking wood. Because this is the best case scenario. Instead of losing Randle for the rest of the season, they likely are going to lose him for just a month. Maybe less. I'm being cautious. Because if they were to lose Julius for the season, I said it last time we talked. I couldn't be more excited for the Yankees to play baseball in 2024, but I was even more eager if that were the case. Because you just simply can't replace, a big man giving you 25, 10, and 5 every night. That's just not replaceable long term. The scoring, his ability to back down mismatches on the post, use his body to back down size, and fade away on a defender on the block going to his left shoulder, right shoulder. You're missing too much. You're missing the rebounding, the hustle on the offensive glass, the tip-ins, the second chance kickouts, the shot creation. The shot creation is what they're going to miss regardless. His post gravity, his drive gravity, that opens up the corners. He's made significant jumps this season in reading help defense. His driving kick game draws in help defenders, and he kicks out. So, fortunately, that's not going to be gone all year. And I was a little nervous because the last thing I wanted Leon Rose to do is if Randle were to be out for the season, I didn't want Leon to double down and give up twice as much assets. I don't think he would have, because his entire plan has been to use capital for a superstar. But that was a concern in the back of my mind. You never know. Knee-jerk reactions are very easy to fall into. But guys are going to have to step up. Brunson, as we saw tonight, and we'll talk about it, he's going to get double-teamed. Defenses are going to help on him. And I think when we're talking about guys stepping up, there's a couple guys you could mention. OG Anunoby, I think, could be a key. As long as he's okay with the elbow, I think it'd be important to get him incorporated more into half-court sets. We brought this up last episode. Mid-range isolations as a primary ball handler in pick and roll. We've seen a little bit of that. Catch and shoot, DHO. The Knicks have run a little bit of Chicago action with him, pin downing into DHO to get OG curling off a screen going downhill, right? Kind of like the way they used RJ coming off screens. I think getting OG more involved like that would very much help this offense. I don't know that he's going to become a 20-plus points per game scorer like Julius, but, be productive a little more than usual, have more ball usage, and get more reps. And I think once OG does return, you're probably going to see Josh Hart defending at wing in the starting lineup. And then OG will be at the 4. Right? And I think with that lineup, Tibbs' thought process is that Quentin Grimes is undersized. I think a lot of us want Grimes to be in the starting lineup again because he has played better, sans tonight. But I think Tibbs he's shown all of us time and time again that he does not trust the lineup of Dante DiVincenzo and Quentin Grimes together, because he sees both of them as twos and not true wings. That's why they rarely ever play together. He's worried about Grimes' issues defending true bigger wings because Grimes is much better defending at the point of attack on smaller wings and more traditional twos. So that's why Hart gets the default all the time. And I think Tibbs is going to stagger Hart with OG as much as possible to get those backup 4 minutes. But I would also not be surprised, and we saw it tonight, but even when OG is healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if you get those dual post lineups where you got two bigs and Jericho's playing backup power forward minutes with the bench. Yes, it's really gross offensively. The spacing is not ideal. All that shit. But we know Tom Thibodeau. And this was something that, as much as we don't like it, it worked last season when the Knicks made their run. They played some great defense. Their size was an advantage. Their rebounding was an advantage during that stretch where Jericho had to fill in. In that lineup tonight, it was incredibly great defensively. Now, granted, they played a miserable Charlotte Hornets team who's arguably the worst team in basketball now that Detroit's picked up a couple more wins, but it's a good defensive lineup. I've heard the Knicks Twitter loves doing this shit. Jacob Toppin. A lot of people are advocating for the Knicks to call him up from Westchester. I think he dropped 30 tonight. I don't know. I doubt it. Who cares? Honestly, I don't think that's going to make an impact. That's to me, the Jacob Toppin stuff, and you keep hearing it every time someone goes down. It's another case of Knicks fans hyping up nobodies, as always. They do it with everyone, man. They everybody who is homegrown and doesn't get minutes under Tom Thibodeau because they're young players, Knicks fans think are like superstars. He did it with Frank. We did it with Knox, Brasdegas, fucking Obi, Cam Reddish, Deuce McBride we're doing it with. These people, these Knicks fans on Twitter do it all the time. They will hype up G-Leaguers, bums, back of the rotation reserves, rejects, role players, as if they are diamonds in the rough that just haven't broken out yet. I think the only reason Knicks fans want Jacob Toppin is because of his name. Right? It's like Giannis's brother, except Obi is not Giannis. Does this change anything trade-wise? I don't think it does. Definitely not now. I think the Knicks are still going to stay on course. And what's that course? I think their idea seems to be two moves, right? One being getting a playmaking combo guard for the bench. Maybe that's Grimes and or Fournier plus picks. I know a lot of us now are leaning towards the or Fournier plus picks because Grimes has stepped it up and his defense has been huge. But if it's in a package for Malcolm Brogdon, I'm saying yes to that. I think Malcolm Brogdon is the ideal candidate. You need firepower. He brings you that scoring. He's a perfect fit who can play 2-1 with Brunson, without Brunson. And again, the financials work as his salary is very tradable. DeJounte Murray, sure, I'm still fine with that. Point of attack defender. He's got some length. He can also score, obviously. The finances work there. He's another guy on a tradable salary. Do you have to flip him down the line? I don't know that he's realistic. It seems like it's very pricey. Atlanta wants a lot. They want the unprotected pick in there. I don't know. You've kind of heard those rumors die down. Also, I don't know if it's realistic because DeJounte Murray has never came off the bench, and I don't know if that's... I don't think you want to fuck with Dante DiVincenzo right now, the way he's been going all year. The Bruce Brown rumors, I just get this bad feeling it's never going to go away, and I've bitched about this enough. You already have a Josh Hart. I feel like in the year 2024, you can only have so many of those types of players. The spacing issues are already an issue now that Randle's going to be out, and we've got these double big lineups. I don't know that I want Bruce Brown out there. He's not the creator for the bench that they need. Neither is Alec Burks. Like, please stop with the Burks shit. I don't like that I heard those rumors. Burks he's a fossil, as one of my buddies likes to say. He's also not a creator. I mean, we tried playing Point Burks in his final season with the Knicks. It didn't go great. I'm just done with old veterans who are on their last legs. Same with Lowry. Please, just because he's Nova doesn't mean he work. Bridges, a Nova guy, would fit, sure, but like I don't see the Knicks doing a deal with the Nets. When was the last time that happened? Can somebody tell me? I don't think the Nets are trading Mikal Bridges for anything less than a bunch of first-round picks. Am I trading 4 picks? ESPN had a projected trade today. The Knicks trading 5 picks for Mikal Bridges. No, thank you. I'm not doing that. Not trading 4 first-round picks. Not trading 5 picks. I think you need to save those for that Mikal Bridges is not a superstar. Yeah, that's, to me, firepower is very important. And I am in love with a Malcolm Brogdon deal. Does that happen? Because you can use him short term and flip him for that superstar down the line because his contract has a few more years on it at a pretty good salary. So I think they're going to go for the combo guard. And then I think the second move they're going to make, or, in whatever order, I guess, is to make probably a small addition to the front court, now that Randle's out a while. And do they use their $5 million trade exception money on that? That's probably I don't know how great it's going to get you. Like I would rather not use up assets and get into roster spots and all that. But who is decent that's making $5 million a year? What front court player? So they might have to make some deals. I think Ian Begley, this was on Twitter earlier today, talked about Harrison Barnes as a potential candidate for the Knicks. Now, Harrison Barnes is a 3-and-D wing who can guard 3s and 4s in second units. So I wouldn't totally hate that. Sacramento's trying to stay under the cap. The Knicks can probably swap Fournier's salary for Harrison Barnes, who can be used as a trade filler, because Barnes makes $17 million this year, $18 the next year, and then $19 million in 2026, 2027. So that's matching salary right there. I wouldn't hate that. If so, the expectation rises. And listen, like I think this team has a shot to do some really good things. I'll put it that way. And I'm expecting Leon Rose to do some good things at the deadline. Every move Leon Rose makes seems to pay off. He has just done a really good job turning this franchise around. He went out and got a great head coach. He got Julius Randle in here to turn the franchise around in 2020. He was the first player we had, that really turned into a legitimate cornerstone piece. First signing / trade we made, right? Brunson, another. Leon brings him in. Everyone hated it. It's an overpay. Now he's being underpaid severely, and he saves the franchise. He went out and signed Hartenstein. That's been working out exceptionally. He's going to get the max. Obviously, with the bird rights and everything, is probably about 16. Makes the Josh Hart trade. Helped the Knicks get to the second round last year. The Dante DiVincenzo signing is working out exceptionally. The Obi trade has worked out for the Knicks. And then the RJ and Quickly trade has been working out, obviously, for the Knicks. So he's done a great job. He's done a nice job getting this team back to having a winning culture, which they haven't had in a while. They've got young players on tradable salaries. They've got tons of draft capital, in a position better than most entering this deadline, right? Maybe outside of OKC and Utah. So Leon Rose has done a nice job, just quiet, not loud, quietly doing the job and getting the damn thing done and being very smart, improving this team on the margins while he waits to attack for that big move, because that's the big plan here. Obviously why they brought him in. This is an agent with connections we're talking about. But yeah, I mean, the expectation for 2024, like I'm good, man. I'm again, if everything health-wise goes well, rehabbing goes well for Julius, and OG is nothing but a bump in the road, I still think you can expect an Eastern Conference Finals from this team. I do. I think that's very possible. Now, we said last episode that this team could be a dark horse candidate for the NBA Finals. You got to remember, Mitchell Robinson is also due to return for the postseason. And when Mitch went down, I mean, that was like, I thought the end of the season was right there, by the way. So, again, this goes back to what I've been saying. This Knicks team always answers the bell whenever it seems like things are about to go very bad. So, would you be shocked if they figured this shit out? I listen, I'm not saying they are going to the finals. I am saying there are very few teams that I'm afraid of in the Eastern Conference. I think the clear-cut Eastern Conference favorites right now are Boston and Milwaukee. Boston's way too tough for me to just, expect the Knicks to be able to beat them in a series. They're super tough. They play a spread 5 offense. They got KP, Holiday. That's such a good dynamic now added to that team, who's already got Tatum and Brown and a good solid head coach. Milwaukee, I know they've got their issues right now. A lot of drama. Doc, I know. In a 7-game series, I think Giannis and Dame will be able to figure shit out. I do worry about that, the Knicks being able to figure that out. I'm not going to just jump over them like a lot of people are doing right now and like toss them aside. Firepower wins in today's league. So those are like the two teams who I have a really hard time seeing the Knicks jump. The rest are pretty beatable teams. Still difficult, but I think everyone else, like, I'm not scared of Philly. I think they're a good team. Maybe they look a little different after the deadline. But I think the Knicks can beat Philly in a 7-game series. Cleveland's tough, but I think that's a good matchup for the Knicks. I think the Knicks can handle them. Indiana, I don't take them too serious. Their style of play, I don't think is sustainable for playoff success. It's a little much for me. I don't think their defense is going to be good in a postseason series. I think, listen, there's a good chance that the Indiana Pacers are going to be 3-0 against the Knicks by next month. But you look at it, and like 2 of them will have been without Julius, and one of them was when the Knicks were kind of in that in-between land where they just made the OG trade, so they didn't have any players that night. And I believe they had a couple of injuries on top of that. So I'm not afraid of Indiana. I think the Knicks can beat them in a series. Orlando's a tough matchup. They've given the Knicks some hell this year. I want to believe the Knicks can handle that team in a 7-game series. They're, at the end of the day, a 500 club. Miami. They're obviously a tough matchup. It's Knicks Heat. You can never count out the Heat if you're a Knicks fan. You got to always keep an eye on them. They just lost 7 in a row. They lost another one tonight to Phoenix. They looked very slow tonight from what I heard. They're older. They might have peaked last year. That whole go on and run in the second half, sneak into the play-in, make some noise in the playoffs. How often can you really rely on a, one-hit wonder like that? I don't know about Miami, man. What I'm saying is I think the Knicks can handle them. Do they sneak into the play-in? God, that's going to bite me in the ass, isn't it? But like after that, it's all garbage, I think Boston and Milwaukee, which the Knicks, I want to see how they look against Boston at full health. April 2nd will be, no, that's the Heat. I think it's April, though, the next time they play Boston. I'm not sure. No, they do play them without Julius in this upcoming stretch, but I would like to see how the Knicks look against the Celtics at full health. I don't know that we're going to be getting that the rest of the regular season, but I think there's a slight chance If they run into the right teams, get a little bit lucky, things could bounce their way and they could be in a finals. That's like possibly Knicks Denver, Knicks Clippers, Knicks Phoenix. That's going to be tough. But listen, I think the realistic thing here is if the Knicks make all the right moves before February 8th, and if Julius rehabs properly and stays healthy and he gets back in time, I think this team has a very real possibility to make an ECF. So all in all, if the Knicks can get through this thing unscathed, and I think they can, while losing 2/5 of their starting lineup, that's insane. Tom Thibodeau absolutely should be in the running for his second Coach of the Year award, if that's the case. The dude has just found a way to win every single night, no matter what you threw at him. He gets the damn thing done. So if they can figure this out the next month, whatever it'll be, Jesus, give the guy the Coach of the Year midseason. I don't care. Let's talk about the actual game, which we haven't even gotten to yet. We'll do that when we return from our first break here on BD4. Stay with us. Be right back here. Episode 619.
We appreciate you sticking around and listening so far. When you have a chance, be sure to open YouTube to subscribe, like, and comment. And if you're already watching on YouTube, be sure to head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. We appreciate your feedback and are always looking to improve. Now, with that all said, let's get you back to the show. You can also find us on social media. If you'd like, you can follow BD4 on Facebook, and we're at BD4Pod on both Instagram and Twitter. We appreciate you helping us grow more and more every day. Let's get back to it.
Welcome back to the show. Episode 619 of the podcast. Thank you for tuning in to BD4. The Knicks won tonight, 113-92 over the Charlotte Hornets. He had some injuries, for the Hornets. So a bad team, even worse. They were without LaMelo, Williams. Those 2 core pieces right there. And also Gordon Hayward. Please don't trade for that guy or sign him to buy him out. The Knicks, again, were without OG, Randle, and obviously Mitchell Robinson. OG's day-to-day with the right elbow inflammation. I'm not expecting tomorrow. I think they're going to be precautious and just give him the extra couple of days. I would hope that he's back for Indiana. And then, again, if you needed, the Knicks starters tonight, Brunson, Dante, Hart, Precious, and Hart. All right, so if you needed further proof that Tibbs doesn't prioritize anything except for size, peep tonight's starting lineup. Like that, he will never trust a Grimes and DiVincenzo lineup together. I'll say it one more time, because he doesn't trust their size to defend small forwards. It's why Josh Hart is the default every single time. So you did actually get some Dante Grimes lineups tonight, but obviously that was because he was forced to with an 8-man rotation. But Dante was great. Brunson was great. They were both aggressive in the first quarter tonight. The Knicks took the first 26-25. Second quarter, some ups and downs. The Knicks lose the challenge. Isaiah Hartenstein gets a couple of nice baskets from the post, gets to the line. Then you get a good close to the half where you had that Brunson, Dante, Grimes, Hart, Precious lineup. They did a nice job. There's a lot of speed in that lineup. And at the half, it was 46-43 Knicks. Third quarter, Precious gives you some early offense. He knocks down the corner 3, tips it in the next time down. Brunson gets red hot. Dante has a huge third quarter. And the Knicks are up all of a sudden 90-67 going into the fourth. Fourth quarter was pretty much garbage time. It got a little bit too close for comfort towards the end where you could see Dante DiVincenzo had tired legs. Brunson had to check back in, scare the shit out of all of us, I'm sure. But it was okay. The Knicks ended up pulling away 113-92 over the Hornets at MSG South tonight. And you saw a little bit of what you might see offensively. You saw some hints of what this offense could look like without Julius. There were moments in this game where Steve Clifford ran zone. I have to think if the Charlotte Hornets will do it, other defenses will probably zone on them. It's easier to now zone the Knicks with the lack of spacing. They had, tonight at least, 2 shooters and 3 non-shooters out there. Now, OG, when he gets back, if he gets back, let's say when, obviously the spacing is going to be much better. You know, obviously, how do you bust a zone? You use the corners. Still, like, it's going to be a little difficult because Josh Hart will be in the starting lineup. And Josh Hart's a guy who we've criticized before because of the spacing issues when he's, you know, when the Knicks settle down into the half court and he's in those lineups. He's the guy who doesn't take or make many 3-pointers. So what happens is the defense sags off or the defense loads up onto Brunson. They throw size and length on him like we saw tonight. So you have to rely on other guys to knock down shots. And tonight you got big contributions from Donte DiVincenzo. 28 points. He knocked down 5 threes. He was great until he gassed out in the fourth quarter. Again, he played 41 minutes. Deuce McBride, massive help tonight. He was 3 of 6 from downtown. His 3-point shooting on the season continues to just be real. Off the ball, catch and shoot, doing his thing. Grimes, I think, is going to be key. Didn't have a good night tonight, but I wonder if the Knicks are going to consider holding on to him now. If, again, they can get a deal done and keep Grimes, I'm all for that. I just don't know if that's going to be realistic. But I was listening to a podcast for a few minutes tonight before I hopped on here, and I heard a really good point. I thought it through, and it's a very good point because a Tom Thibodeau offense positions his best spacers in the corners. His best shooters will be spaced out in the corners. And that's because the Knicks run a ton of pick and roll. So the defense can't help off the corners to deter the roll this way because they've got good shooters in the corners. But since the Knicks never really hit the roll man anyway out of pick and roll, and instead it's either pick and roll into kick out, swing, ISO, I was wondering if, like, maybe they should try keeping OG, Donte DiVincenzo, Quentin Grimes as the guys who are one pass away. You know, and the worst shooters like Hart or the non-shooters like Precious, etc., keep those guys in the corners. This way, the defense can't help off of a non-shooter that's one pass from the action to load up onto Brunson. Again, like they saw, like they did in the first half tonight. One of those corner defenders will also be on the weak side anyway. I think this would give Brunson a lot more space to operate during this time without Randle's gravity. You know, and Hart's a pretty decent shooter in the corners, so I think they should try it out more. But yeah, I mean, get those guys away from him. Give him the space. Because if you have Donte DiVincenzo next to Jalen Brunson, and then on the other side you got, say, Quentin Grimes, that defender is not going to help onto JB. That defender is going to respect the shot. You know, tonight you saw a bit of clunkiness in the first half, and you might see a little more of it for a little bit because guys seem a little confused, you know, with the positioning and the spacing because they're not used to playing in specific rotations and at certain positions with certain guys, and because Tom Thibodeau doesn't position spacers next to Brunson, the Knicks had trouble generating offense in the first half. Second half comes mainly the third quarter. The Knicks were spaced out a little bit better. They made quicker reads, and they were able to pull away. I just wonder that if against better competition, a team that isn't 10 and 140, if the Knicks are going to be able to get away with that. So I definitely think that Tom Thibodeau should try and shake up the system a little bit. Just an idea, you know. And I think that's our game balls. Our game balls. Let's hand out our game ball from the starting unit, which Jalen Brunson.
Bing bang.
Another great night for Brunson. A quiet 32 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 54% from the field, 33% from 3, 80% from 2. And he was a plus 80% from the free throw line. And he was a plus 20. Jalen Brunson just continues to do the damn thing. What else is there to say? He's now dropped 30 points or more in 9 of 12 games and 7 of 8 games. He's got 19 game balls already on the season. The guy just continues to do the damn thing. So Jalen Brunson, I've said it all. I've said enough on him. There's nothing else you can really say at this point. He's an incredible basketball player. It seems like he averages 2 and 1s a game. Taking 1 charge a game. It's the guy's unbelievable. He really is. And I'm so happy to have him. And the Knicks fans we're spoiled when it comes to Jalen Brunson. We got a top 15 player that we thought would just be a role player when we initially signed him. At least I did. Let's get to our second game ball. Off the bench, we're handing this one out to Jericho Sims. Gets his first game ball of the season. I thought Sims played well tonight. 6 points, 7 rebounds, a couple assists. Yeah, I loved him on both ends. The rebounding, he was good for the offense, providing some second chance opportunities. He was using his strength. The defense was good. The passing was cool. He had that nice give and go to hit Grimes on the cut from the middle there. That was nice. Jericho Sims. I like Jericho Sims with backup units. I think he was he was a fish out of water when he had to play with the starters for a while. I think Jericho Sims fits best when he's backing up Isaiah Hartenstein with the second unit. And I think we're going to see his value when the Knicks... I'm expecting it to be Sims that gets those power forward minutes when Hart and OG aren't staggered. And I think he can do fine. He's a good defensive big. Getting better in drop coverage. Obviously, his best value comes when he's at the level switching, but I think Jericho can do a serviceable job as a rotational big, and I thought he had a good game tonight. So Jericho, first of the year, in 24 minutes, he gets, again, 6 points, 7 boards. So nice job for Sims. And you know what, man? Like the minutes distribution from Tom Thibodeau, ever since that infamous game, I forget who it was against, but it wasn't too long ago, where everybody played 40-plus minutes. It was like one of the first games the Knicks had with OG. Everybody was playing over 40 minutes in the starting lineup. OG had like 43 minutes for, X amount of games in a row. And it was the game that blew up on social media. Everyone was going nuts about it. Ever since then, it's been much better. Relative, right? But you're seeing guys sit in the fourth quarter more. You saw in the Denver game, the starters didn't play the final 15 minutes. Tonight, before the game got too close, the plan was obviously to sit Brunson. Even with Isaiah Hartenstein's return, he comes back from the Achilles, and both of these games, he's playing 15, 16 minutes tops. So now, of course, Dante DiVincenzo tonight, 41 fucking minutes. Without Randle, though, this is your secondary playmaker, right? Along with your second best shooter. So you need him out there with Brunson to provide spacing. But at the same time, you need Dante out there with the bench unit when Brunson sits because you need an initiator. So it's hard to not sit him, to not play him. It's hard to sit him more than, 7 minutes. So until they figure this out and make this next trade, there are going to be guys, in the wing rotation playing 39, 40, 41 minutes. I'm not going to go crazy about that. But overall tonight, I thought terrible Hornets team. You did what you had to do. Even without the players they had tonight, they needed to get this win. So it's hard to really have a takeaway from this game. It's kind of incomplete. They played the Charlotte Hornets, and they played without OG Anunoby. I want to see what they look like. I do think the defense will certainly be real. I think the Knicks proved enough to me defensively that they're going to be fine. It was tough early in this game. They didn't have the length to contain Brandon Miller, who dropped, I think, 28. They continue to figure it out. I thought the bigs have been playing well lately as a whole. As Hart gets more comfortable playing, 25 plus minutes again, he'll get back to thriving like he was before the injury. And the defense on the perimeter will be good. OG Anunoby, if he's good, I think the defense will continue to be elite. Offensively, again, we're probably going to see some more of what we saw tonight. It's going to be a challenge, but at the end of the day, Al Davis said it best, just win. And I think the Knicks have plenty enough to just win without Randle. They don't have to dominate, they just have to win. I think they'll be okay in that aspect. So, with that said, we'll wrap this up with our trivia as soon as we return from our break. Stay with us here on BD4. We'll be right back in about a minute.
If you have time in the day or maybe just prefer old-fashioned reading over listening, then you can always follow along and subscribe to BD4 Blog by going to BD4blog.com. We're not on there as often, but when we do post, it's just as entertaining, opinionated, and passionate as we are on this podcast. Thank you so much. And let's keep on with the show.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. Welcome back to the show. Episode 619 of the podcast. Man, I'm just like in a good mood. When I got that, my buddy actually broke the news to me this morning that Randy's only going to be out. Again, there's no definitive timetable yet, but it seems like he's, if all goes well, going to be out only a month. Whew. Just feel good about that. Would like some more clarity on these things, but, hopefully we get more on OG tomorrow. And if he can play tomorrow, that'd be great. If they sit him, whatever, be back by the Indiana game, and I think that'd be huge. I really, really, really would like to beat the Pacers. That's it. Let's get to our trivia, and then we're done. Okay, so for this episode 619 of the podcast, our NYY, NYK, MMA trivia question of the day is, who was the last Knicks guard to make the All-Star team? Who was the last Knicks guard to make the All-Star team? Let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. I have to get a haircut. Jesus. One final time. Who was the last Knicks guard to make the All-Star team? That's it, people. That's it. Appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you for tuning into the podcast, listening to the podcast. Maybe you're watching the video edit of the podcast. Wherever you are, thank you so much. I appreciate the listens, the comments, the likes, the views, the downloads, the shares, all very much. And I'll see you in 620 when we're talking Knicks Jazz. Hopefully a win over the Jazz. But as for this one, the Knicks got the damn thing done. They got the job done. They get good news, and they beat the Charlotte Hornets in North Carolina tonight at MSG South. So with that said, let's wrap this up. Thank you all. I'll see you in 620. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you. And we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees and go Knicks.